Sunday night, it's 8 o'clock. Welcome to All Lacrosse Live. I'm Gary Groob in Toronto. With me, as always, I have Shawn Slaght over at Moose Jaw. Shawn, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, thanks, Gary.
Excellent. And down below, I have Muffler Mike over in Connecticut. Mike, how are you?
I'm good.
Excellent. Well, guys, it's been a week. I know I've got a lot of lacrosse under my belt this week. It's been fun. I know you guys have got a fair amount of it too, even without PLL under our belts this week. And it's still been a holy smokes kind of a week. But before we get into all the nitty gritty, I got Jay's on the brain. I spent my day over at Rogers Center, seeing where my money's going for my internet and phone and thing. And I do believe I own second base. I'm fairly certain that thing's mine. But I just went to go visit it. Oddly enough, they had a few bases, used bases for sale. And I just, for the life of me, I can't understand who would want one. Come on in, steal second base here. Just for the life of me, I can't figure that one out. But hey, crazier things have happened. But just before we get rolling, just a reminder to everybody, of course, that all of our shows are live across Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, also next day on Spotify. Remember to hit the subscribe, follow, and like buttons. Always share. Please enjoy all the affiliates across the Streampunk Entertainment Network. If you missed a show, no worries. You can grab all the shows on YouTube, which include Streampunk Cinema, Streampunk Combat, Streampunk Sports, as well as All Across All the Time. And don't forget to give us a follow when you're there. Don't forget to tell people that we're there. Also, while you're there, you will see retro games, interviews, library of shows. You will also see fights. You'll see press conferences, and a whole lot more. Remember, you can stay up to date with all sports by visiting streampunkentertainment.com with great articles from our huge staff of contributors. Also, a reminder that the show is brought to you by 60, which is Canada's newest, most exciting sports uniform and teamwear brand, delivering top quality uniforms and teamwear that reflects the spirit and identity of each team. Their commitment to innovation and excellence sets them apart, ensuring that every customer experiences the perfect blend of style and functionality. Unleash your greatness with 60. Remember, add Lax Talk 10 to any of your orders for a 10% discount. First off, you can go to the QR code, which is in the center of your screen. You can try them on Instagram at sweet_60. You can email them at info.sweet60@gmail.com or go directly to their website at www.sweet60.ca/60. Well, let's start the week off. Last Sunday we had some terrible news. Eric Hayner was coming back from a lacrosse tournament up in Fenland Falls, the Creators Tournament, first annual, I believe. And he was in a major car accident and did not survive. Our thoughts, prayers, and everything else goes to the Hayner family. If you go on to our page, as well as if you go on to Ontario Series Lacrosse, Major Series Lacrosse, and any of the other social media pages, you will see that there is a GoFundMe page set up for Eric Hayner's family to deal with expenses. Please go on there, and if you can, donate anything you can possibly. Doesn't matter if it's $5 or $10. If you can afford more, please, by all means. But we're trying to help the family through a rough time. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with the Hayner family in this trying time. A couple of trades to talk about, both in Ontario Series and in Major Series. First Ontario Series, and that was Josh Sanchez and Tanner Sudan going to Collywood for cash considerations over to Hamilton. Here is the big one, guys. Mike, you're sitting. Coburg gets Jason Knox from Oakville. They get a first-round pick in 2028 and 2029 from Peterborough, as well as cash considerations from Peterborough. Oakville gets Alex Simmons from Coburg and a 2028 second-round pick from the Kodiaks. And Peterborough gets Ryan Lansbury from Oakville. Now, that's a trade.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is what's known as a blockbuster trade. Big names to all three teams, and some heavy duty stuff on the way over to the other teams. It's funny because there's an email process that comes through these things, and because it was with three teams, it wouldn't accept it, so we had to do it the old fashioned way. So when I saw this email, it was kind of like, what? But yeah, so that is the blockbuster for the week. So Peterborough is working on getting stronger, and they are getting stronger as we speak. Also on the good news front, happy 95th birthday to Grandma Rush, who had her birthday the other day. That's awesome. Joyce is such a fantastic person. I love chatting with her on the phone. I love when I get to be able to get out to Saskatoon and work it out with her as she comes in from Alberta into there as well. And it is just so much fun chatting with her. Such a great spirit. And at 95, still kicking and going strong. So we wish her many years of success and being with us and, really illuminating the room, if you will. She is such a special person.
Yeah.
Well, Shawn, why don't we start off with a little bit of Western lacrosse because, well, I'm sure everybody's tired of listening to me.
Sure, we can start off with the BC Junior A. Started the week off on Tuesday with the Burnaby Lakers and New Westminster Salmon Bellies. Burnaby came with a 10-5 win on that one. On Thursday night, Langley came away with a 10-7 win over the Delta Islanders. Kind of the opposite results, though, for Langley on Friday night. They lost Port Coquitlam 10-7. That same evening, the Coquitlam Adanacs, who just seem to be a juggernaut this year and look to be on their way to possibly to another Minto Cup, they had a 14-7 win over Burnaby. We had 3 games on Saturday. Port Coquitlam Saints, the 14-8 win over the Nanaimo Timbermen. Then the Victoria Shamrocks came with 11-6 win over the Lakers. Then another overtime game to end off Saturday between New Westminster and Delta. New West was actually down 10-8 late in the third period. Tagish Moog scored with 5:11 left. Then Lincoln Twomley scored with 33 seconds to send the game to overtime, tied 10-10, and actually that's the way the game ended. No one scored in overtime, so we ended with a 10-10 tie. And the kind of interesting, a ton of shots in this game. Credit to the goaltenders. Boris Mansimenko stopped 54 of 64 shots for New Westminster. And for Delta, Grayson Beggs stopped 47 of 57 shots. So goaltender saw a ton of shots in that game, and it ended in a 10-10 tie. And then just today, we had the Delta Islanders had a 9-5 win over Nanaimo, and then actually a bit of an upset, the Victoria Shamrocks, a 13-8 win over Coquitlam after I just finished pumping the tires of the Adanacs. But the standings as they sit right now, Coquitlam's still top of the standings, though, at 7-1-1. Langley's at 7-3-1. Port Coquitlam at 6-4. Victoria Shamrocks at 5-4. New Westminster Salmon Bellies at 4-4-1. Burnaby Lakers at 4-5. The Delta Islanders at 2-7-1, and the Nanaimo Timbermen at 1-9.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Thanks for tuning in.
Into Alberta Junior A, we have. Guess we start on Saturday, and a pretty big upset to start the week. Saskatchewan SWAT came away with a 12-10 win over the Edmonton Miners. For a program that's been struggling this year, the SWAT come away with a win. On Saturday, the Raiders came away with a 16-1 win over the Winnipeg Blizzards. And then the Miners came away with a 7-6 win over the SWAT on Saturday. Then just this afternoon, the Raiders came away with an 18-6 win over the Blizzards. That is still saying box score, so I'm not 100% sure if that's a final or not. And then this afternoon, the Miners with a 12-6 win over the SWAT. So standings, as far as I know, the Raiders, it says they're 8-0. So they're at the top of the standings. The Miners are 7-4. Mounties 3-4. Blizzards 2-5, and the SWAT at 2-9. And over in Prairie Gold Lacrosse in Saskatchewan here, Junior B started the week on Saturday here with the Prince Albert Predators coming away with a 12-8 win over the Winnipeg Blizzards. And then they played, looks like a doubleheader on Saturday because the Prince Albert Predators came away with a 14-11 win over the Blizzards as well. Then on Sunday, actually, the Blizzards came back with a win 10-7 over the Prince Albert Predators. However, with those two wins, the Predators are at 8-2 and have clinched a playoff spot. The Winnipeg Blizzards are at 7-5. The Swift Current Wolverines at 6-5. The Moose Jaw Mustangs at 5-4. And then the Weyburn Razorbacks at 0-10. Then Senior B on Wednesday, the Saskatoon SWAT came away with a 17-11 win over the Prince Albert Outlaws. Then on Friday, the game I was able to make it out to, the Standing Buffalo Fighting Sioux against the Moose Jaw Mafia. It was really great to kind of watch Standing Buffalo, especially with the firepower they've got. Scoreboard said 19-4. The online scoreboard here says 20-4. I don't think 2019 is going to make that much of a difference, but Austin Shanks with 7 goals, and man, they even shut him down halfway through the third period. He probably could have had 10 goals that game, but he had a really great game. But I really want to give a shout out to the Moose Jaw goaltender, Joey Juhaschek. He got called up from the Junior B Mustangs, so his first Senior B game, and considering what he was up against, he was really spectacular. He had a really great game. I know he gave up 19 or 20 goals, but I mean, probably 4 or 5 of those shots that Austin Shanks had on him. I mean, an NLL goaltender would have a hard enough time, let alone the kid coming up from Junior B. So big shout out to him because he did have a really great game. Also on Friday night, Winnipeg Blizzards and Jarrett Smith, another Rush player, 24-7 win over the Regina Heat. Making sense with Jarrett Smith being from Winnipeg. He's just playing Senior B back home. And then Saturday, Standing Buffalo with 11-5 win over the Regina Heat. And the Moose Jaw Mafia with a loss 22-3 to the Winnipeg Blizzards. And then this afternoon, the Blizzards beat the Mafia again, 17-7. And tonight, there's still not quite a final yet, but Prince Albert Outlaws and the Saskatoon Brewers are going at it as we speak. As the standings sit right now, we have the Saskatoon Brewers at 8-1. Standing Buffalo Fighting Sioux at 7-0. Winnipeg Blizzards at 6-2. The Regina Heat at 4-5. Saskatoon SWAT at 2-6. The Prince Albert Outlaws at 1-6, and the Moose Jaw Mafia at 1-9.
Alrighty. Over into Ontario Junior Lacrosse League, and we had Mimico beating up on Orangeville 10-6 on Monday. Tuesday we had a pair of games. Peterborough lost to Whitby 14-9, and Burlington beat on Elora 14-10. Moving on to Wednesday, St. Catharines beat the Toronto Beaches 14-11. The Beaches turned around on Thursday, beat Burlington 8-7. Oakville beat Elora 9-6. On Friday, we had 3 games with Kitchener and Six Nations. Six Nations coming ahead 9-8. Orangeville beat Peterborough in OT 10-9. Brampton beat St. Catharines 11-6. Whitby beat on Mimico 14-4 on Saturday. And They came around and played again today. Burlington beat them 13-11. We have a couple of games going on live right now. Brampton is ahead of Orangeville 7-5. St. Catharines and Six Nations are tied 4-4 at the moment. In the standings, we have Orangeville up in front in their division at 5-2. Whitby right behind them, 5-4. Brampton coming up upon them at 4-3. Mimico is 3-7. Peterborough 3-4, and the Toronto Beaches at 2-6. In the other division, St. Catharines is running away with things right now, 8-2. Six Nations, it's at 6-3, as well as Kitchener. Remember, Kitchener mortgaged the next three futures, the three generations, I think, with 57 first-round picks and 200 second-round picks and things like that. And they are sitting right now in third place in their division. Oakville 4-2, Burlington 4-6, and Elora at 2-7 at the moment. In Ontario Series Lacrosse, we've had we just finished up a couple hours ago. We had a busy little weekend here. 4 games this weekend, and we start off on Saturday. And 1 second here. We had Six Nations and Belleville, and Six Nations came away with a 11-3 victory in this game. Belleville or Owen Sound has had a rough weekend because they ran into Brooklyn today and were beaten 9-4. So they have gone from 4-2 now to 4-4 in the standings. The most entertaining game of the weekend actually was this afternoon, and that was Belleville and Ennismore. And this game went back and forth all day, with Belleville coming out on top 11-10, scoring the winning goal with just a couple of minutes left. Nolan Ruddy with the winning goal. But this game went back and forth so much as Belleville had a 4-goal lead at near the end of the second period. Ennismore tied this game up with 5 minutes to go in the third, and 21 seconds after they tied it is when Nolan Ruddy scored the game winner. Apparently, the game is going to be up on YouTube. I don't know if it's going to be on the Ennismore YouTube page or Ontario, but it's seeing a message that was sent to me. It'll be up by about the time our show is over. So if you're looking for an interesting game to watch, this one has got a little bit of everything in there. We had one other game, and that was earlier yesterday. One Sound in Hamilton. And, Hamilton beat them 14-5. So, yeah, kind of a rough weekend for Owen Sound. But anyways, Six Nations and Belleville played. I'm sorry, I had that one backwards. And it was 11-3 for Six Nations. Anyways, that was the week that was there. Why don't we do a bit of WLA, guys?
Sure. Yeah, we can start with Wednesday night with Coquitlam and Langley. And I don't remember if a couple of years ago here we always kind of wondered, what would Coquitlam look like with Christian Del Bianco when he actually had a defense in front of him? Well, Coquitlam came away with a 12-2 win over Langley, and Christian Del Bianco only faced 34 shots. So when he has a defense in front of him and he's not facing a ton of rubber, you're probably not going to score much against this Coquitlam team. to be fair, Langley kept it fairly close as 3-1 after the first period, but then the floodgates just opened after that. Coquitlam outscored them 6-1 in the second, and then Delbianco stopped all 9 shots he faced in the third period to completely blank out the Thunder. Statistically, James Ray, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 assists from Denon Armstrong. Brian Gillis, 2 goals and an assist, 2 goals and 2 assists from Jalen Chaster. Not much really to speak of for Langley. Their goal scorers were Dante Koulis, a goal and an assist for him. He led the way. Only player really to have multiple points. And John Phelps was the other goal scorer. And in goal for Langley, Frank Giuliano and Keegan Okino both split time and goal for the Thunder in that one. And moving on to Friday, we had a pair of games. The Victoria Shamrocks, Gary. They beat the Maple Ridge Burrards 11-5 to hand the Burrards their first loss of the season, and just a dominant effort by the Shamrocks to jump out to a 4-0 lead, right off the bat, and really kind of held a strong lead right on through. Chris O'Reguilari, 32 saves on 37 shots. He was spectacular. And I mean, for the Burrards, credit to Jack Kask, and Brent Humphrey faced 2 shots as well, but Jack Kask, he faced 57 shots, so he saw a lot of rubber, to be fair to him. And the Burrards, they were without the likes of Marcus Klarich in this game, so some of their top goal scorers weren't in the lineup, but hey, you got to beat who's in front of you still. For the Shamrocks, Marshall King, 4 goals, 2 assists. Zach Mavs with a hat trick and 2 assists for 5 points. Patrick Dodds, goal and 3 assists. For the Burrards, Riley Lohan had a pair of goals and an assist. He had a goal and assist each from Carter Linkletter and Declan Fitzpatrick in that one. And I think Mike had game 2 on Friday.
I did, yes. And after 2 losses earlier in the season to New West, Burnaby finally gets their first win of the season by beating New West. 8-5 was the score. They actually had a 4-1 lead after the first period. New Westminster rallied to tie it at 4, and then Burnaby had another 3-goal run in the third period that kind of took the air out of the Salmon Bellies. For Burnaby, Jake Young had a pair of goals. Andrew Cowan, a goal and 2 assists. He had a goal and an assist for Ryan Favaro. A goal each for Cordell Primus, Ben Stewart, Butch LaRue, and Justin Gurney. In net for Burnaby, Mark Ripberger, 31 saves. And Burnaby actually outshot the Salmon Bellies 46-36 in the game. And they win this game without Thomas Vela or Jackson Fridge in the lineup. So congrats to the Lakers on getting off the schneid there. For New West, not much to talk about. Noah Armitage, a pair of goals. Will Malcolm, a goal and 2 assists. Owen Ron and Lucas Nielsen each had a goal and an assist, and Ashton LeClaire had 38 saves in the loss.
And moving on to Saturday, we started off with bad weekend for New Westminster. A goaltending duel though with Nanaimo. Nanaimo comes with a 5-4 win, and again, to be in all fairness, Ashton LeClaire in goal for New West faced 59 shots. It stopped 54. So the fact that it lost and he stopped that many, I mean, you can't hang that on Ashton. On the other side, though, Kobe Bowman was in goal for Nanaimo, and he stopped 45 of 49 shots. So again, this is a goaltending duel in that one. In this one, and Nanaimo jumped out to a 4-1 lead after the first period. New West did come back, and it was 5-3 heading into the third. New West did manage one goal, but Bowman, did manage one goal, and Leclerc stopped all 19 shots he faced in the third period, but it was just that one goal. They couldn't find the equalizer. For the Timbermen, Andrew Bowman had 4 assists, had a hat trick from Ryan Sheridan, and then you had goals from Matt Boas and Jeremy Woodrick. And for the Salmon Bellies, again, not a whole lot to talk about. Will Malcolm, a goal and an assist. Cam Eichert, goal. Luke also had goals from Owen Ron and Will McKay. An assist from Lucas Nielsen. And that was pretty much your point getters that entire game for New West.
Come on, Gary. I know you want to ask that question.
Of course I do.
Gary, I'll say it with Gary.
What is wrong with New West? I can't understand this now. I thought we had them on the top of the heap. By the way, go Shamrocks.
Yeah, I mean we did, but they obviously Sean's kind of alluded to it the last couple of weeks. I mean, they don't have quite the maybe star power that they used to. They did trade away Tyler Pace to Maple Ridge, and obviously Frank Chiliano's not in net for them. It's a bit of a change for going from Higgins and Chiliano and Man Cup appearances to where they are now, under 500. But certainly what's also not helping them is penalty minutes. Right now they lead the WLA in penalty minutes. So undisciplined play, I don't know if that's just new guys coming in trying to get used to the league, but they have more than twice as many as penalty minutes as the best team in that category, which is Nanaimo, who has 61 through 6 games.
Yeah, and just along those lines too. I mean, just looking at that game against Nanaimo, for instance. I mean, Ashton Leclerc has been playing outstanding in goal, all things considered, for New West. But when you're giving up, 59, 60 shots a night, kind of like I mentioned about Coquitlam a few years back, right? Like when they're not limiting those shots and you just kind of hanging your goaltender out to dry, you're not going to win many games unless you got a guy like Christian Del Bianco behind you.
Absolutely. Interesting for a week. What's upcoming for us this week, guys?
I think Mike had one more game here.
Oh, yeah, we did have one more game Saturday night, and I know there's 2 going on tonight. So Victoria, continuing their hot week, they beat Coquitlam 11-8 last night. Shamrocks outshot the Adnecks 54-39 for the game. Marshall King, wow, what a week. Another 4 goals and 2 assists. Zach Mans, 2 goals, 5 assists. Cohen Block had a pair of goals and a pair of assists. He had 2 and 1 from Luke Pilcher. Denton McDonald had a goal and an assist. Tyrell Hamer Jackson, 14 of 22 on faceoffs. And Chris Riglieri had 31 saves.
Awesome.
Applause for Dave here.
Welcome back to the show, man. Good to have you. And a huge shout out to the 14 and under Delca Outlaws for taking the Paul-rific walk in the Park World Series qualifier. They went 6-0 this weekend. That is awesome.
Nice.
Congratulations and all the best in the future. That's cool.
Excellent. For Coquitlam, Del Bianco had 43 saves. Keen Moon had a hat trick. James Ray, 2 goals, 2 assists. He had two goals and an assist from Laszlo Henning. A goal and 2 assists from Jalen Chaster. Denton Armstrong and Brian Gillis each had 3 assists in the loss. And I know there's 2 games tonight. The standings as of right now do have Victoria back on top at 6-1. Maple Ridge is 5-1. Coquitlam 4-3. Nanaimo 3-3. New West is 3-4. That's outside the playoff window right now. Burnaby 1-5, and Langley is 1-6.
I guess I can go through the upcoming games here. Yeah, tonight we have the Adnax and Timmerman, and then the Burnaby Lakers and the Maple Ridge Burrards are also going at tonight. Then coming up this week, on Wednesday, we have the Burrards and the Thunder. Thursday could be an interesting one. Victoria Shamrocks against New Westminster Salmon Bellies. So I guess that'll be really kind of a litmus test for New Westminster going up against Victoria. The Nanaimo.
That question again, eh?
Check the penalty minutes column.
No, yeah.
Whole other thing, right? Those are certainly not going to win much.
Again, we won't remind Gary who that loss to Victoria came from. Friday night we have Nanaimo against Burnaby. Then once we hit the weekend, Saturday Langley against Nanaimo, and then again Sunday Victoria against Maple Ridge. Another battle for first place on Sunday night. It'll be a good one. Yeah,
absolutely. Just before we move forward with MSL, just to update what's going on next week in OSL. Ennismore and Collingwood in a big game next Saturday. Belleville and Six Nations. Belleville now with 2 wins. They're starting to move up the standings. Six Nations to keep pace with Brooklyn. Need to win all the games that they get into. Belleville does face Hamilton on Sunday afternoon. And Ennismore will face Owen Sound in what will be a really entertaining game, I think, as well. So if you are available, it's inexpensive and it's great lacrosse, great crowds. Please enjoy. But moving onward, we had some interesting games this week in MSL as well. We started Monday, and we had the Coburg Kodiaks and the Oakville Rock get together. And it looked like one team was ready and one team was still trying to get themselves together. It was 7-1 for Coburg at the end of one period. And you're thinking to yourself, there's 2 more of these periods to go, eh? This could be a football score by the time we're finished. Now, to Oakville's credit, they showed tremendous resilience and compete. And actually, when they put Konstantopoulos in relieving Kells, I believe he let in 1 goal the rest of the game. Oakville was able to battle back from a 7-1 deficit, and they wound up losing 10-9. And even that was kind of scary near the end. So this Oakville team, I wouldn't sleep on them yet. And now they just got Alex Simmons to go with it. But these are a lot of guys who are really, trying to make a name. You know who had a great game in this game? Jake Darlison. He had a couple of great games this week. And he's really coming into his own. But of my 3 stars, Brock Haley, who had a huge game for Coburg. Evan Konstantopoulos, even though he only played 2 periods, he stopped the bleeding in a big way. And Aaron Woods with yet another, spot-on game. So, kudos to these guys, and for Oakville to not just mail it in after being down 7-1, because it really looked like they were in serious trouble. But they were able to put it together. We head over to Brooklyn on Wednesday, and the Peterborough Lakers came in looking for revenge after being beaten by Brooklyn at home a week earlier. And they walked into the Iroquois Park Sports Center and beat Brooklyn 8-4 in a very entertaining game. The score actually, I think, was a little bit closer than what the game was. It really did look like Peterborough was in charge for a good chunk of it. Peterborough seized control almost immediately. They never looked back in an 8-4 road victory. They jumped out to a quick 2-0 lead on goals from Rob Hellier and Mike Robinson, just 37 seconds apart to open the game. Then added 2 more in the first period from Colton Armitage and Hellier again for a commanding 4-0 lead. Brooklyn showed some pushback, though, with goals from Landon Sinfield and Chris Bushy, and they were just 4-2 at the end of 1. The second period tightened up defensively. Both goaltenders made key saves before Robinson restored the Peterborough's 3-goal cushion late in the frame. Brooklyn answered with Will McLeod to stay within striking distance at 5-3, but the Lakers quickly shut the door in the third. Brad McCulley and Hellier with yet another 23 seconds apart early in the period. After Sinfield cut the deficit back to 3, Colton Armitage responded almost immediately, halting any momentum that Brooklyn would have. Peterborough came away with the 8-4 victory. Moving into Thursday, and Brooklyn had an opportunity to right the ship, and they went into sorry, I got the wrong one up. They went into Six Nations went into Brampton Thursday night, and Brampton played them tough. I'll give it this. Brampton played a solid game for about 30 minutes. And I believe at that point it was 3-3, and then the roof fell in. Six Nations just absolutely dominated from that point on. And our final score, 12-4. 3-3, 12-4. That was a long 30 minutes, shall we say. Chiefs never let up in the third. Josh and Dane and Josh. Josh and Dane and Josh. Sounds like a bandit, doesn't it? Throwing a little bit of Ian McKay in there and Chris Kluche, and we had the championship team. Right? But Six Nations on a roll. And I ask once again, guys, is there anybody in any league that will be able to stop the Six Nations Chiefs? Anybody?
Well, like I said before, Six Nations Chiefs are going to beat the Six Nations Chiefs. Only way they're going to lose is to have an off night.
They're going to have a very off night because, they can sit around and not really do anything for 30 or 40 minutes and put together 8 or 9 minutes solid and still come away with a really decisive victory. And when they started rolling here, it was like watching the Harlem Globetrotters in lacrosse. You almost want to hear the music, because just about anything they wanted to do at any given point. And, there wasn't a whole lot of anything that Brampton could do to stop them. And it's not for lack of trying, because they put in solid effort. Like I say, the first 30 minutes, it was impressive, man. When they battled back then, it was 3-3. It was like, hey, this is a pretty good game. And then from that point on, it went boom, like a switch. And that was the end of that. Wild, eh? All right, we go to our last game of the week, and that was Saturday. And Oakville traveled up into Owen Sound to face the North Stars. And Konstantopoulos got the start again, facing Andrew Kidd. Entertaining game, but by the end of it, Oakville had beaten Owen Sound 10-8. But again, the shots on net, unbelievable. 65-59 in favor of the Rock. just a shooting gallery. But Jake Darlison again with a really big day. Jack McAlpine, he had a big day. And for Owen Sound, Kalen Brennan had a good day also. But again, when we're looking at the standings at this point, of course, we have Six Nations sitting in first at 6-0. Like anybody needed any help with that one, right? And from that point on, then it gets kind of interesting, right? You have Brooklyn, who is 4-3. Oakville, who's 3-1. Peterborough, 3-3. Cobourg, who's 2-3. Brampton, 1-4. Owen Sound, 0-5. But those 0-5, it's very, very an elusive number because a couple of those games, they were within 1 or 2. And could have gone either way, just didn't have finish power. So I wouldn't sleep on the Owen Sound North Stars. They are a pretty good team once they find their way. And they're getting stronger each and every time. Upcoming this week, we have Brampton in Oakville tomorrow. Oakville then heads off to Six Nations. And Wednesday, Brooklyn hosts Owen Sound. Thursday, we have a pair of games on the docket. Brooklyn and Cobourg, of all things. Cobourg has a Thursday night game, not a Sunday game, even though they have a Sunday game as well. And Peterborough and Brampton in Brampton. On Saturday, Six Nations travels up to Owen Sound. And on Sunday, Peterborough drops down into Cobourg, into the meat locker there at the Cobourg Community Center. And that should be a big crowd. They always draw well when Peterborough is in town. Going to be an interesting time. There was the shots on goal that I'm noticing in at least in Ontario is unbelievable, guys. Just as a prime example, the Owen Sound Brooklyn game from this afternoon, shots on goal were 61-31 in favor of Brooklyn, which is one of the reasons why my third star was Gavin Clark, the goalie for Owen Sound. Ennismore and Belleville, the shots on goal, are you ready for this? 79-63 in favor of the Kodiaks. That is absurd. Andrew Kidd, a ton of rubber. You know, I wish there was a fourth star because I would have put him in. You know, there's just unbelievable the shots that are happening. So, defense? What's that? Maybe a what? East? We're just firing. Lots and lots of shots. But at least what I can see is that they're keeping track of shots now. Because for many, many a game, I see zeros.
All right, so let me play devil's advocate here with this. We've obviously seen and heard, comments from, I'll call them legends of the game, wanting to see a possible return to the old mill style of play where you've got lines, full lines playing shifts versus this offensive defensive specialty. Is this kind of disparity in shots on goal possibly a precursor to teams moving back to that style of play?
Could very well be. It could very well be. I know a number of them are starting to move back towards doing lines again instead of all offense, all defense. You take a look at a team like Six Nations that have so much talent that you have guys like Dawson Thee coming out the back door because there just is so much talent there. But they started doing that a couple of years ago. I remember talking with Rich Kilgore about it. and they were running lines again like the old days, and to great success. But they're also so talented because you have to have really athletic guys in lacrosse for it to work, to be able to play both ways, which is something that I can't blame the players because we've gotten away from it as a whole. So they're not training to do this. You know, you're training to go off and play your half of the floor and get off as fast as you can if it's not there. So I personally love it because, you know, that was what made this the fastest game on 2 feet and made it explosive and made it that not everybody knew what was going on at any given point, because you couldn't rest on he's going to just dump it off and then I can saunter onto the floor defensively, and everybody is moving and everybody is running around. It also creates the too many men scenarios because guys are jumping early and trying to get that extra inch, and referees are looking for it and calling it, which now puts you into, you know, why we're seeing more power play goals and we're seeing more even shorthanded markers because of the transition game being that much better. What do you think? Is it the same out west?
Well, I was just gonna say, I can't really speak to Ontario per se, but I know, we are seeing it a little bit more in the NLL, even where maybe you're not necessarily seeing lines per se, but you're seeing more guys. At least I am with the Russians, especially with their line and the athleticism they have. The guys will just stay and play, right? Like the defender who will come in transition, make that first pass, but he won't head to the bench. He'll stay on the floor. I think you're seeing more of that, at least.
Right. But we're not seeing guys getting caught as much.
Yeah.
So we're not seeing those odd man rushes as much if it doesn't come out of transition, which means that, again, the goalies like Del Bianco's, the goalies like Nick Rose, and of the older days of Mike Poulin are very valuable because of how good a passer they are defensively. And if we're changing back into that thing, which again is why Warren Hill and Doug Jamieson are also great with Six Nations, because they can thread the needle 80 yards up the floor. Very, very seldom do you see errant passes come out of their sticks, which is something that some of the younger goalies need to learn to be that effective. Because when you watch Del Bianco, when he's in his zone, he is a sixth defenseman. He reminds me of Brett Queener when he played in Major League Lacrosse. Because Queener would be the goalie, and he would leave as quickly as you'd see him, go up the floor, try and score, and be back in his net. More times than not, he would lead the rush, as opposed to just dumping it off. And Del Bianco does that a lot in his own zone. Obviously, can't go across the center line and box, but can create havoc by doing something like that. And I'm seeing a little bit more of that now with goaltending that have good hands, which is soon going to be a prerequisite. Because, when one does it, everybody needs to. What do you guys think? Mike, what do you think on this?
Yeah, I'm a little torn. I mean, I suppose, I kind of got into this game, with the way things are currently set up. So I'm used to seeing, the full change out and, the specialty type play, if you will.
Right.
But, I mean, I would definitely be interested in maybe seeing a bit of a return. I mean, I've always talked about, certain players and how how maybe the league should have a trophy like the NHL does for best defensive forward.
Yeah, I don't see why not, because if we're going to go back in that system, we're going to have to acknowledge it. The other thing is, we've talked endlessly about whether or not there's a use in having a Fogo. Or does he need to be more advanced and just take a face off and get off? Because if you take a look at, and I'll give a perfect example, the Toronto Rock, one of the reasons and a main reason I think more I look at it is the deal with Philadelphia for Nick Rowlett. I don't think that the Rock even get by maybe San Diego if they don't win almost 50% of the faceoffs against Trevor Baptiste. Because San Diego gave them a fight and a half. And maybe not scoring on all those possessions, but having possessions enough to cool off San Diego, I think was a big thing. Going against Jake Withers and not letting him run amok on the faceoff dot and coming away with almost. Remember, he faced 3 of the best faceoff men in the league and held his own with all 3. That's impressive when you weren't in the conversation and you were almost 50% right across the board with Withers, with Naso, and with Baptiste.
Yeah,
I think that's downright impressive. And when I saw him 2 weeks ago and he had a cast on his thumb, that makes perfect sense, right?
No, sorry, I was going to mention, that's one example I was going to take out of Saskatchewan was you looked at a team where they had Mike Mester. He can take draws, but he's not, an elite face-off guy. And that Rush team was like kind of on the cusp, but they were missing the playoffs. Then they bring in a guy like Jake. And I know I've heard interviews before where, Derek was kind of hesitant about bringing in a face-off guy who really just is taking up a roster spot, just taking face-offs. But he kind of, I guess, put his ego aside, so to speak, and brought in Jake Naso, and look what happened.
Yeah, Derek talks very highly of Naso. He talks very highly of another upcoming guy out of the U.S. That's going to be a real treat for Saskatchewan and the Rush fans. So there's a lot of bright side as well as what you already have. So the evil genius is still geniusing behind the scenes as we speak. And even when we're not seeing it, the art of deception, here it is. And before you know it, we have another one of these guys upon us that just, where did he come from? Let alone what's about to come in the next draft, which is, Bokun of good. So, but I still wonder, because again, we've discussed this until we're blue in the face about whether it's an important thing or can it be something that is defensed against of having a face-off guy. Because when it's defensed against correctly, then it's just a cause turnover, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So there's the antidote, if you will, to not having one on. But when you have one that works as well as, for an example, Jake Withers, who reminds me a lot of Jeff Snyder, and I told him that, and I told Snyder that when I had them both on interviews, that they both reminded me of him, and they did play together at one time on Team Canada. And that kind of thing that you're not just taking a face-off, but you're able to score. You're able to play defense. You're able to do some offensive things as well, need be. That's what I'm looking for. If I can get that, the total package. I'm not a big one on just Fogo. Face-off, go off, to me is a roster spot that's lacking. Because then I'm one man short. But what TD Erlin was doing before he got hurt and took a season off and whatever, was he was learning the defensive role as well as learning to score off face-off as well. So he was trying to put in the work to be as good and capable as some of the other defense. So not just a face-off guy. However, you got to be quick because you got to get changed sticks, right?
Yeah. I guess, where I said I'm torn as well because part of the way I see it too is, especially in those tight games, even if you're, defending against, say, losing that face off and trying to get the cause turnover, you're still assuming you're going to get that cause turnover. So if you're in a tight game, how much more important does it become to get that extra possession in a tight game or in an overtime game?
Right. See, I listen to the guys like Johnny Davis. I listen to guys like Dave Durante who harp on this a ton, and a lot of the older guys on how we've lost a step because we'll sit there and pull up and wait for the offense to come on, and by this time the defense is on. So it's not who's the quickest anymore. It's just now we have such skilled players that can score from anywhere. Is what we're doing. But we're kind of missing out on some of the things that made it so great for so many years with that option. I'm seeing more transition. So I'm liking that because, again, that's the thing that makes it exciting. When you're not sure what's about to happen, neither is your opponent. And taking full advantage of what you're seeing on the floor and being creative. Otherwise, it's just field in a box, right?
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm seeing is guys are more, athletic, right? Like you're getting more and more guys that can get down the floor a lot quicker off of defense. And as you said, get that transition. I think if you're getting a lot more away from those kind of stay at home, got to lose ball, pass it down the field type of thing, you got guys who can run the field and outrun.
Like you take a look at someone like CJ Kirst. You certainly made the city of Toronto forget it, or at least put in the back of their minds Tom Schreiber. No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another really gifted American who can do just about anything from anywhere. Wonder if they were able to get both of them there. Wonder what that would look like. Only one ball though. That's the problem, right? That's the problem when you have a lot of superstars. Buffalo was able to figure it out for a couple of years, but most teams, if they have a couple of superstars, it's kind of tough when everybody wants to be that guy, right? You need the working horse. And I talked to you guys off air about this, but if you haven't had a chance to watch Toronto Rock Unplugged, you can watch it on their website or on their page. It's on their YouTube as well. The last episode of the year is called Finale, and it is all behind the scenes of the finals. Interviews, going through plays, going through games, going through everything, all the way up and until, and of course, through the championship. And I thought it to be done so well. It was riveting. Not just because I'm a Rock fan, but just riveting and seeing behind the scenes and what they're thinking and listening to inside the dressing room and listening to the guys mic'd as they're having their pep speech in practice, their pep speech before games, during games, down, up, and everything else. So if you have an opportunity, it is on my page on Facebook. It is, again, on the Rock pages, website, as well as on their YouTube. So if you have an opportunity, it is an hour long. Ironically, when they had their celebration in Hamilton, their second celebration, they released this one before it went released to the public. Free popcorn there too. So you're going to watch it on the big screen. And I think that would have been pretty cool. I happen to be in Brooklyn doing watching Lakers trials Brooklyn, but got to be work. But so that's what I think about that. If we're going to go back that way, because remember, one of my favorite stories is listening to Johnny Davis talk to me about he used to take a penalty just because he'd be playing 56 minutes of a game. He wanted to sit down for 2 minutes. So he'd take a penalty. How many times do you hear that now? Never. Johnny would talk about, he was a roofer trying to make ends meet when he was playing. And, of course, being involved in all the tar, he would take his coveralls off, get into the arena, and stand them in the corner. Yeah. That's insane, right? Again, my favorite story from him was Miller Bowl in Peterborough. and it was an outdoor bowl. That's where they played. And his brother was the water boy. He was the assistant water boy, young kid, and glass jars. So when he ran out of water, his brother would throw it over the fence. He'd have to catch it, don't break it, and run into the dressing room, fill it up, and throw it back out. But at the end of the game, wooden box, the nails would come loose. And, you would think, okay, one of his jobs was to hammer in the nails. So you take a hammer and hammer in the nails, right? Not Johnny. Lacrosse stick and ball. Practice all his shots. That's Johnny Shooter Davis. This is stuff you don't hear about when you see a guy and how gifted he is, right? You look at Jeff Teat, and you don't hear about the times when he was young and Dad was playing Buffalo, and there he was on the floor playing catch with John Tavares. Or sitting there and being wide-eyed watching everything from the time he was a young boy and digesting it and then putting it towards what he's doing now. A ton of God-given talent, but a ton. Who's the biggest studier? The best players in the game are the best studiers of the game. They're the best students of the game. However, one of the things that we were discussing on Thursday's show with JB Clark, who's got almost 400 wins as an NCAA coach. And, when he played, he was a good player, but he wasn't a superstar. And one of my questions to him was, is it better to be a coach that was, not a superstar, but a student of the game? And the answer very simply was yes, because a lot of the times, and the same thing when I was, been in music, all the gifted people are gifted. They're not really sure how they did it. They just did it. The people who had to work for everything, and that means in lacrosse, it means in music, it means anywhere, who had to scrape and claw and scratch for everything, know how to do every step, what every step entails and what every step means. And they're your best coaches and teachers because they can explain exactly what they did and how they did it. And it was very interesting when we got into that. We also, if you have an opportunity to watch that show from last Thursday, we got into the pros and cons of sexism, the pros and cons of what to do with all these eyes that are watching the game and what to do after the fact. Otherwise, it's wasted. If we don't have, again, I harp on it every interview with these people. If we don't have an exit strategy, we're no better off than beforehand. And one of the things that we brought up was, because you have a problem that even if, with the Olympics, if you're not the licensed network, you can't even show a highlight, right? So how to work around things was maybe with the advertising on the sidelines is maybe the teams or the organizations like Lacrosse Canada or US Box Club or anybody else that's looking to build it should, buy the advertising space and have a number or a website or a QR code even for someone to call who's interested in getting involved. We're not talking about, making it to the pros, but if we can get the again, I harp back to getting the grassroots. Because in my eyes, the grassroots, even if they don't want to become professional lacrosse players, men or women, doesn't matter. They are your fan base. And they will grow up and they will have families of their own and kids of their own. That's why I always think that we should be, in here, we'd be looking for the, the kids in the OLA. Over in the West, it should be BC doing the same thing with WLA Junior or RBLL Junior. And market towards the kids. Allow them to get into games for free. Drive that passion. Because again, even if they don't want to get out of a house league or something of that, grassroots. I'm not talking about club. I'm not talking about junior. I'm not talking about that. There's a lot of money already filtered in there. But the grassroots for the kids who love it and want to just hack around and have fun in a game they love, that they may not be the best in, who cares, but have the love and the passion for it. Those are the people who are buying the tickets for years to come. And you need them as much as you need the superstars in the game if this is going to succeed. And if we could actually, get our heads out of the sand and out of the mirrors by looking how great we are and see what we need to do to get the rest of the people to see how great we are, maybe then we have something. And market. Not go, okay, we'll open the doors. Everybody should know about us. Everybody's knowing about you because guys like us are out there as the town criers going, hear ye, lacrosse is on. After a while, though, people A, tune you out, and B, your megaphone isn't big enough. You need other things and other plans. In this day and age where social media is so accessible for so many, there's no excuse to put forth good, strong marketing campaigns.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to bring a point because I think you're right on the money here. Because this is something I actually saw when I was at the junior or senior beat game. This Friday, you're talking about how Jeff Teat was throwing a ball around with Jonathan Tavares. During intermissions, they let the kids on the floor just to throw balls around and whatnot. During the second intermission, Austin Shanks came out. He didn't have his jersey on. He just had his thinner shoulders on. He didn't have a stick, but he's throwing balls out to kids, giving them pointers and showing them a few tricks here and there. I mean, that sticks with those kids, right? Like,
yeah,
stuff
that's
like
cool.
that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Kudos to him for that. More need to be doing that. But yeah, and that's why it's so important, like what the Rock Elite and the camps do. And it gives a way to, for the young kids to, because remember, there's still that hero thing, right? Your eyes are this big. Challen Rogers walks by. Well, he's not your coach. Well, I'm going to listen to everything he tells me. Or Latrell Harris. Or Alex Simmons. Or whomever is part of the organization at the moment in the summer. Whether it's field or box, because both are going on there. That's why a place like track is so important. And I can't for the life of me understand why there's not more of these popping up. Because the blueprint's there. Jamie already tried it. He took the risk and it worked. And there's a lot of things in that building. There's a gym in that building. There's a, physio and chiropractor in that building. There's 2 pads in that building. Let alone there's the merch store, which is part merch and part equipment needed and repaired. So there's a little bit of everything in there. And accessible right off the highway. I don't understand why places that are hotbeds don't have more of these popping up. Now, it would be silly to have another one here in Southern Ontario because we got that. But why there isn't one popping up somewhere in the Vancouver area? Why there isn't one popping up in the Western New York area? And you can't tell me there isn't an interest for it because you take a look at all the reservation in there and you take a look at the popularity of Rochester and Buffalo and everything in between. Sure, there's an interest for it. Can-Am plays out there. There's a lot of things going on. You're going further into Syracuse. You've got Onondaga right around the corner there. So there's a ton of things to do. Onondaga, you've got the field house and the rest of that there, right? So in a sense, you have that without having that in their own representation. But if you're going to grow it, you're going to need these kind of facilities in places where you want to build it. San Diego, to an extent, with their programs and their outdoor practice facility, gorgeous place. But is it enough? Might be for now, but if you're going to grow it, is it going to be enough? Or do you need a facility? Just things like that's on my mind especially now we're in summer ball. And here's the opportunity. Kids are out of school. Kids are going to be doing things and playing an awful lot of lacrosse. But it's what to do with the curiosity. Because it can't just be about going in, playing your game, and then leaving. Because then it's blinders are on.
Right.
If you can get exposed to other things and have it on game days and not just the OLA festival for 2 weeks. And even then, I'm watching people being shuffled in and people being shuffled out. Occasional booth over here, occasional booth over there. But really, is it anything that organized? It's one of those, we do it every year, so we do it this way. Well, is that right, really? Or should we just kind of really examine it and go from the ground up and try and figure out what works and what doesn't and cut out what doesn't and really hammer on what does? Until I talked to Eric Peroni on the show, I hadn't even realized that kids get in for free anyway in Brooklyn. Never mind, you get a reduced thing because you're wearing your jersey. Kids get in for free. And you're hoping that because the kids are coming, they didn't just kind of walk there from the side of the road, that their parents and cars going to come in too, right? Or you're working towards future. Yeah, you may not make all that money now, but future, right? You have to, how many times have you heard that? See the forest through the trees, right? See what the end goal is. Know what you want to achieve and then go out and do it. But instead of doing it everybody individual, there's so many of us around that are willing to put in the time and the effort, and we already do, that love to do it in concert with others. And if we can get some of our minds, which are some of the best minds that I know a lot, gosh darn a lot of people. And if we can all put them together and get into the same ideas, then who's going to stop from where it's going to go? People thought they were crazy when there were 6 teams in hockey, and they thought, well, that thing is going to be universal. Yeah, okay, sure. Making $5,000 a year. With a general manager saying, you do it my way or you leave. You think that flies now, Mike? If you turn on a TV watching Las Vegas and Carolina in Game 6, you think any of those players are going to be, yes, sir, I don't know.
It's almost the exact opposite now.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's evolved. It's had its growing pains and it's evolved. And remember, when I had Sakavitz on a few years ago, and yeah, there's some differential things that were going on there. But, the main thing was that we were about NHL 1976 or so. We had some TV. We had some popularity. We were starting to grow. We were getting more teams. But we hadn't had the explosion and the explosion of TV to go with it. Right, which was the 80s. With the superstars of Gretzky and Lemieux coming into it. That's what pushed you to the next level. The excitement of Gretzky and Lemieux. I mean, I'm going to watch those two guys just absolutely tear apart the league and do things that you've never seen before. Not that you didn't have stars. You had the Bobby Orrs. You had the Bobby Hulls. You had guys before that, the Stan Mikitas. You had guys from the 50s and the 40s. And, and goalies like a Turk Broda and things like that. Or goalies that were still crazy without masks like Lauren Gump Worsley. But you had these guys, and with television, and all of a sudden, boom. Right? It didn't hurt that you had characters like the Broad Street Bullies in Philadelphia. Everybody hated fighting except no one would turn it off. Highest rated shows ever. Take a look at the fight I put up in December of Ryan Hartley and Nick Damude. Got 2 million views. 2 million views. Put up a highlight reel goal. And if you get 1,000 or 2,000, hey, great for you. 2 million views around the world. Yeah. But, if, with the OLA, if you put anything up, you'll have your credentials pulled for photographers and things. So, where do you want to actually do your marketing? Yeah. It's been in the game forever. It's just like people say, fighting isn't in hockey. Yes, it is. It's been in there since the beginning of time. Should it be the be-all, end-all? No. But is it it is a means to police itself if it's not staged. If you go headhunting and then you have somebody coming after you, that's well deserved. if you have like we had with Gash and Clark, which was they tapped each other's shoulders before the game, and 5 minutes into the game they're scrapping. I can do without that one, thank you. That would be the Probert Domi fights that were staged. I can do without that. I don't need wrestling in my hockey, thanks, or my lacrosse. But if something is unkosher, I'll bring the Kalen Crawford thing on Brad Crate. And then somebody like a Hostrouser comes in and acts up. Was that a stage fight? No. Was that for a reason? Yes. Nothing wrong with that. That's the league policing itself. It also stops a lot of cheap shots because you'll think twice before doing something stupid if you know that Hosttrousers are going to jump all over you if you do it.
What's funny? I've always said in hockey when they've talked about fighting out of hockey, I always said if you take fighting out of hockey, you're going to see more stick work. You're going to see more slashing. You're going to see more hooking. You're going to see a lot more of that because you're not policing it, right? Like
Don Cherry said that for years.
Yep.
Don Cherry said a lot of things for years. He was dead on the money.
And yeah, I bet you'll see the same in lacrosse if you ever took fighting out. Like you'll see a lot more of the cheap shots than the stick work. Like
you already see a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because we're already watering it down. So you want to keep it that it's a viewable thing for all guests. You don't want to see bench clearing brawls, and you don't want to see what you see in the Man Cup in 2001 and things like that because it loses all of its purpose and all of its meaning. However, if it comes to a real situation, I believe it should be policed. And giving it 2 minutes over there where you're going to get out 15 seconds if we score, that's not policing. Did you learn anything? No. Did you have anything to deter you from doing it again? Only worse? No. I'll tell you what, if I had some of the bruisers from before, or even some of the guys out there now, and I'm coming into the corner like that, I may think twice before I put it between your eyes. If we've taken it out and I'm safe, what's the difference?
Yeah.
Good luck. And what do you need? You need a superstar to get hurt before you go, maybe that's not a good idea. Why would you want to have open season? But anyways, we're going off topic here. I still, bring us back into it. I still think of, transition as the key to the excitement. That's one of the things which I see in summer ball more than I see in NLL, which is what draws me more to summer ball, is that I really enjoy the transition in it. There's more creativity, and there are more guys with a free hand who are trying to make a name. That's not to say they're not playing as a teammate, but they're freer to be more creative. And to me, that's a good hook, especially if you're trying to sell a game. Mike, let's take this into PLL a little bit. It's more blueprinted, of course. But have you noticed any of the creativity being a little bit more up than it was before? Especially the way the PLL is set up as opposed to Major League Lacrosse.
I mean, I'd say so.
Yeah. I would personally, greedy as I am, I would have loved to see a guy like John Grant Jr. and what he could do in these set of rules in the PLL. I think that we would be talking about stuff he does in a game for weeks. Without these rules, he was a human highlight reel. With all these extra little things and the 2-point goals and the other things that go on, and let alone, when you have the All-Star weekend and, all these other competitions, man, can you imagine? Things like that just would blow my mind, what we'd be able to see. But with all the things that the PLL have incorporated to make it more TV friendly, to make it more fan friendly, Has the game suffered or has the game excelled?
I'd like to think it's excelled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally find it to be a more interesting game. And adding the shot clocks in there also, because, you know, when you watch World Lacrosse and you watch them in 3 minutes, or the team that can hold the ball against a team that can't, you know, like a Canada or a US against most of the other teams, it gets kind of boring when you get 4 minutes of passing, when you're trying to just kind of get out of the game and running around in circles, and it kind of loses its meaning. When you have a 52-second shot clock or a 30 off a face-off, that kind of forces you to do things. You know, sixes is going to be, you know, I'm sure it's going to be a differential as well. Otherwise, you're going to have teams pull up when it's, you know, 20, 22, losing interest. Well, if it's going to be a differential and they score 35 goals, you're going to want to score 40, which is going to drive up scoring, of course. But for the TV audience who doesn't know anything and sees this is exciting. You know, for us in the game, we're thinking about the goalie going, oh my God. Right? But it's about selling the game.
Yeah.
To people who don't know the game. Right? We can be remedial about teaching rules because you really don't need it. Ball, stick. Right? Afterwards, you can do that. You know, basics, and that's up to the announcers. But you don't need big clinics for all your fans. You know, we talked about that before also. You know, we don't need to dumb it down that you lose everybody who's actually interested in the game. But a few pointers here and there on what they're doing. But again, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's box, field, sixes, or any other version. The main thing is stick, ball, net. How you get there is a whole different thing, but that's, you know, down the road a bit. Am I on point here? Or what do you think, Shawn? What do you think?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm right with you on that one. Yeah, like I said, my only ever concern was with sixes. You know, is one that always that driving line between blocks and field, and that always kind of how they can't always get along, and who's going to kind of shove one out of the other. One, someone's going to shove the other one out of the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, let's hope there's no shoving. PLL, you know, did say they were willing to work and, you know, help grow the game, not just the field game. So,
right. All right. Just before we wrap up, I want to go in our respective leagues here. Mike, that's being the PLL for you, just the way we're set up tonight. And I want to go with what is your game of the week coming up.
All right. So for PLL, I'm not even sure there's only 3 PLL games this week.
Yep.
It is Atlas's homecoming. You know, if I had to pick a game of the week, I think I would actually probably go with Archers and Redwoods.
Right.
Friday night. You know, obviously Atlas, you know, needs to try to come up with something here. Their best shot might be, you know, the front end of their doubleheader against Cannons, who are also 1-3, because the back end of their doubleheader is the Maryland Whipsnakes, who are leading the PLL right now. But if I really had to pick a game, I would actually go with the WLL game that's happening this weekend. The Maryland Charm and the New York Charging. Both are coming into the game 1-0, and it's kind of the opposite of what we saw last week with a team not wanting to go down 0-2. And basically the winner is going to really be in the driver's seat for, you know, one of the 2 spots in the championship game, considering it's just a 4-game season. And I think it's going to be interesting. We talked about the whole scheduling quirk around Charlotte Nort's injury, which now we know is a torn Achilles, and
Worst case
6
scenario.
weeks definitely isn't enough for that.
Oh.
So,
we're hoping that she'll be in there by the time we go into spring next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Long road.
this definitely, as far as the other teams, the scheduling is interesting because the Charging are basically going to play out the rest of their season in the next month. They have the Charm next weekend. The following weekend, they play California. And then 2 weeks after that, you have the All-Star. Well, you have the All-Star break in between, and then they have a rematch against the Charm. And then that's kind of the end of their season in week 8. And they got to wait around until after week 13, provided they've won enough games. The Charm will get a break when the Charging play the Palms, but then they'll play their 4th game when they return after the All-Star break against the Boston Guard.
Right. All right, Shawn, in WLA, what do you think is your game of the week? I'm looking at them and I'm thinking,
I think I was going to cheat a little bit because I was going to say I would have picked the obvious, and I'll give you my close second. The obvious, obviously, is Victoria and Maple Ridge. That game is likely going to be for first place. Those are two pretty much far and away the top teams in this league so far. I guess you could lump Coquitlam in with that as well, but the fact that the Shamrocks did hand Maple Ridge their first loss of the season, and just the way Maple Ridge is looking. And again, you have to remember Maple Ridge was missing some players when in that loss against Victoria, so this could be a different look Maple Ridge team.
Don't forget
again,
also
come Sunday.
2 days earlier, the Shamrocks are playing the Salmon Bellies.
Yeah, and I was going to say that is my close number 2 on this one is the Shamrocks and Salmon Bellies, because as we've been talking, like, what's wrong with the Salmon Bellies? Like, this is that litmus test now. This is going to expose what's what with the Salmon Bellies. Are they a contender, or are they rebuilding for another year?
Absolutely. I have 7 games in MSL this week, but the game that stands out to me of all of them is the Brooklyn Lacrosse Club Thursday night going into Coburg. Because Coburg, even in their losses, like the Six Nations, has put up a hell of a fight. And I think they're the next team on the cusp of doing something really great. And remember, they're the ones who actually handed Six Nations a defeat last year in the playoffs. Something nobody had done at that point. So are they upstart? If Ruska's playing well, I think that they have a real opportunity to knock off Brooklyn in this game. And that is my game of the week for MSL. I had mentioned already in Ontario series that I thought that Ennismore game against Owen Sound is going to be a huge game. I think there's so many up things to take a look at in Ennismore with some of their players that they haven't had, as far as I can remember, homegrown guys. There's 3 or 4 of them that are just, Liam Volums comes to mind, especially. But there's 3 or 4 of them that are just like Daniel Clark that are just on the cusp of really doing something big. And both because they're playing a major series also. So they're getting seasoned with the NLL guys as well. So that is invaluable when they come back and play them with their senior B squads. So I'm looking forward to a couple of those games as well. Again, Six Nations going against Belleville. While it doesn't seem interesting, Six Nations, the pressure is on them because they have the 1 loss. And Brooklyn has been rolling through everybody. And Brooklyn is off this next week. So this is the week for Six Nations to move up and put some pressure on Brooklyn as they move up the league. So it's going to be interesting, and there's a lot of really big upswing in these games. Don't forget, you can catch all MSL games on Flow Live. If you go onto the MSL website, there is a thing to go click watch live. It'll take you directly to the Flow site, and it is a paywall, but there is a lot of sports on Flow. There is, NCAA lacrosse in different divisions on there. There is hockey on there. There is wrestling on there. There is, if you're into cricket, there's cricket on there. There's all kinds of things on there. So it doesn't have to be just for the 1 or 2 months in the summer. The year subscription is a much better deal than doing month by month. So maybe you can find there's enough there to justify for a year. There's a lot of really cool stuff on there. And every time I get an opportunity, I watch more and more and see it. If you're into car racing, that's on there. If you're into other, that's on there. So they spent a lot of time and effort in building a really big library of things. And the stuff is archived. So if you miss it live, you can catch it. You can catch any of these MSL games that have already gone on that we've talked about because they're archived on there. And they're all at your disposal. So give it a thought. Numbers from what I've seen have been pretty good so far. They're exceeding what the initial thoughts were. So kudos to everybody who is jumping in on there and catching some pretty good things. It's great to watch and listen to Steven Stamp and a few of the other ones in there here in Jim Wasson. And as he's doing stuff with Stamper over in Coburg. And, Stamper's also doing Brampton games. So he's traveling all over the place. You got Dalliday doing Peterborough games. It's fun. It's here's Shanahan and Matt from JVI Sports doing the Oakville Rock games. That's fun also. Matt Carrick. So kudos to these guys for really making this a terrific broadcast. One of my friends, Lucas Algiers, who does Lax class with Jake Elliott, he's doing the play-by-play for the Brooklyn games, and it's fun to listen to him do it. So, kudos to everybody. Great work, and remember, you can get on it by getting onto the MSL, MajorSeriesLacrosse.com. Click on the Watch Live, and it'll take you right there, and the rest is easy, so to speak. Anyways, that should do it for this week. Heck of a week, guys, even without BLL. Lots of things to talk about, lots of things to think about. This week on Thursday's show, Isaiah Moran Weeks from the Toronto Rock will be on. Stay tuned because the following week, Lars Tiffany, former head coach of Virginia, and I used to do some scouting reports for him for Canadians for Virginia. So, be interesting to have him back on with Bob Tearing in 2 weeks' time. And Andy Shea from USA Sixes will be on the week after that. So some big shows coming up over the next few weeks. We've had some heavy hitters the last few weeks as well. So definitely hot summer, if you will. Well, that brings us to last words. And Shawn, let's start with you this week.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to this upcoming week with the WLA. A lot of big games, and just a quick update after the first period here. Coquitlam is up on Nanaimo 3-2. And of real interesting note is Nanaimo has gone with Devlin Shanahan in goal over Colby Bowman tonight.
Interesting. Colby had a good week last week.
Yeah.
Mike, last words to you, sir.
What's wrong with New West might become what's wrong with Atlas after next weekend. So
Why we go that one? Jeff Pete is injured.
Rain cloud to my sunny sky. Here I am celebrating victory.
I had
And
to.
you had to come in with the seeded cloud. Not only give me a bit of dampness, but it has big lightning bolts
Well,
and a darkness.
in all honesty, it's only because it's their homecoming weekend. There's only 3 games, like I said. You know, it- there's unfortunately a realistic possibility that they come out of this 1-5, and even in a now 12-game season, it's going to be extremely difficult to rebound from because they are off the following week, and then it's the All-Star break. So,
Well, again, let's face it, losing Jeff Teat was a huge blow.
Yeah.
Huge.
You know what? Connor Schellenberger and these guys are still on there, and there should be some going on. I'm wondering what is going on with the goaltending at Entenmann, because you don't just turn like you haven't seen a ball before from being one of the hottest goalies in the league when they won a championship. Something's up. You know, when you're getting a save percentage of 31, something's not right there. You know, that's Dylan Ward injured all over again. Something is up. And when you really don't have much in the way of a secondary goalie, because we looked at that last week and we had to sift through it to find who it is, that kind of gets to be a little scary. So I'm more curious about that than why the offense isn't clicking. I think it's a bit of column A, a bit of column B. But it's a little unnerving to watch how much of a juggernaut they were. And Teat is a big, important piece. But I don't think it's the be-all, end-all, because they shut him down last year at times, and the rest of them stepped up. You know, the Costa Bills, the Schellenbergers, these guys stepped up. So what's different now that needs to be changed? Because if you don't change it soon, if you're 1-5 and you're not changing things, you're watching. Not only are you watching the playoffs, but you're also watching the Sixes tourney in February. Remember, top 4 teams play that one, right?
right.
So
Yep.
that's the other one of guys who want to be on U.S. Olympic and want to be noticed. Hard to be noticed when you're not playing.
Right.
So that makes that almost more important than the championship here. Because who doesn't want to hoist an Olympic gold medal? How many people on your street have one? So that's the kind of thing that I'm curious about, because there's a lot more on the line than just, well, we're 1-8. No, it's not just about not making the playoffs. There's a lot more to it. And I'm curious that if anything is going to come out somewhere of an injury, of something, a dissension or something going on that just is, you know, making this team not work. Hard to believe that, you know, it's usually you're watching teams go from worst to first, not first to worst. So there must be something. It must be more than meets the eye. Anyway.
And again, that WLL game, that's a big one. So
that one's got my curiosity.
It's first of 2 between those 2 teams, and the winner pretty much puts themselves in the driver's seat for a spot in the championship game.
Right. Well, me personally, I'm loving having all this MSL stuff going on, as well as OSL. And some of the games that I've been able to watch have just been incredible. I come back to that the Oakville Cobra game, which could have been an absolute disaster. But to watch, even in a loss, the Oakville group, which is a whole lot of young guys. There are not many of the veterans in there. And to watch them claw and scratch, not give up, and wind up being just shy of pulling off one of the greatest comebacks that I've seen in a long time. That shows one thing I always talk about, right? Character. And if I can get young players that have character, if I can find a couple of older guys, hard to think Alex Simmons is older, but a couple of older guys as leaders and mentors to that character, maybe I'm onto something. Konstantopoulos has looked great in a couple of games he's started. Kel's not so much. Interesting. But I think with Chugger being the GM of the Oakville Rock, I think is by design to see how much we're going to see of Konstantopoulos, just because we kind of know that the writing's on the wall, whether Matt Vince calls it now or calls it later. But, now that there's nothing to play for Pete, might be time to go into that merry little way, right? Then that opens up the door for Konstantopoulos, right? And Sugnas, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because Orleman is, putting another ring in his cabinet in Toronto now. And I think by default, he'll be your starting goalie, right? Unless they draft somebody else. A goalie GM going to be drafting goalies, right? Thinking a little differently, outside the box, if you will. Because really, the Bandits, they showed in the second half of the year that they may not be as washed up as everybody thinks. However, with a couple of pieces here and a couple of pieces there, don't forget their practice squad is an elite one as well. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see how they handle free agency, and I'm curious to see how they handle the draft. Because they're not like most teams that have come off, their dynasty and have to start from scratch. Is that Chugger has been pumping in pieces for what he needs continuously throughout. So it kind of, if you had, Kyle Matisse and he's now over here and this guy's over here and this guy's over here and all of a sudden they're all gone. Yeah, now you're over here. But you piped in this guy over here and this guy over here, and not just older guys, but some of them were, draft picks, and some were younger guys, and some were guys who are coming out of the practice squads like Scanlon and the rest of them, right? That now they have full-time gigs. So it's going to be interesting. Toronto gets interesting too because they get Thai English next year, right? Number 2 overall last year. Plus they have number 4 overall in this draft. Now, does Nick Rose step aside or take a reduced role and more of a coaching role with, Brandon Miller, who's there? Because I noticed as the year went on, Troy Holochuk looking a lot more like Brandon Miller with those toe saves and things, and fairly athletic. And was enough to wake up an older goalie going, he's doing well, I better get back there and play well. Guess what? I have a cup. That's playing well. And being totally convincing at it from the time he got back. I think he had one bad game in that entire time. So, does he go around for another round? I think he does, but I don't think he's done yet. Just like in that thing there, Hostrauser is saying, hopefully I make the team, but this is be a fun bunch to be on for a couple more years. Because all the alignment is there. Everything they need to win again. Right? So let's see where that all plays. But it's going to be interesting because free agency opens in August. Again, the draft in September. So it's going to be interesting with that. Interesting taking a look at how MSL and WLA play out to try and be the Antichrist to the Six Nations 4-peat. That question is out there. Who can beat Six Nations? Is there somebody? Can a Victoria that is fully aligned, or can a Burrard's team that's fully aligned do it?
I think maybe Victoria, maybe. And again, I think, it comes to that weird, BC rule of bringing in other players in the Mann Cup. Depending on who they bring in, maybe.
Yeah. But also, you're looking at you're in the East. Brooklyn was looking a lot stronger before Mark Matthews had to go to hand surgery and is not going to be there this summer. So they're still piping in people and seeing if it works. And, I think altogether they have 5 goalies on their roster. But Aiden Walsh looks like he's getting the majority of the reps now. Him and Orlerman are going to be 1-2. Is that good enough to fight a Six Nations squad that has nothing but star power in wave after wave after wave? We'll see. And if you can do it once, okay. Can you do it 4 times out of 7? That's the one that daunts me a little bit.
Yeah.
You beat them in a regular season game. I get it. Yeah. Good for you. You played well. Can you do this game in and game out for 4 games before they get 4 games on you?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too, because I know I said Six Nations will beat Six Nations. It's the only way it's going to happen, but they're not going to.
They're not beating themselves 4 times.
No, God, no.
4 times inside a week, there's a problem. But just curious, because even when they're missing some people, there's the people they're sitting could be a championship team. That's the frightening thing. So you're jaunting people in and jaunting people out amongst the main core of people who are playing all the time, and everybody is eligible. So you can throw in like bits and bytes of star power. That gets a little scary. I'd heard from people before, maybe they should just have a league, Peterborough and Six Nations. They just play each other and that's the end of it. Everybody else has their own league. Because if you're putting your team together to see who's going to be number 2, kind of defeats the purpose of all this, right? But I don't know a way around it. You don't have salary caps, but you're not supposed to have salary. It's supposed to be amateur. So, interesting. We'll see how it plays. Anyways, that'll do us for this week. Remember, we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, X, we're on Instagram, we are on Thread, we're on YouTube, as well as on www.streampunkentertainment.com. Please visit us on our flagship on Facebook 3, 4, 5 times a day, as the news is always changing, as the events are changing, as the game recaps go up daily. We are up to the minute, we're up to date, and we are accurate. And it is our pride and privilege to give it to you as quickly and as accurately as we possibly can. Again, I want to thank everybody. A reminder that next week is Father's Day, and we will be doing an 11 a.m. show so that all the fathers can go and have fun and have dinner with their families and enjoy and wear your ugly tie wherever you may go. The one that says, "I'm with Dad," and it lights up. Good with the lit up headband and all the other crap that we get. Good pair of socks. Thermal at that. Good for summer. Anyways, for Shawn Slaght over in Moose Jaw, for Muffler Mike over in Connecticut, I'm Gary Groob in Toronto. Wishing you the best of weeks. Remember, next week it's 11 a.m. Eastern. And until we meet again, then have a great week, everybody. Remember, keep your sticks high, your spirits higher. Have a great week.